Good afternoon. We're going to call to order the work session for the Board of Commissioners for August 12th at 2 o'clock, a little bit after 2 o'clock. But today's work session is going to be focused on the CRBG and some of the allocation and grants that we're working on. And we're going to turn it over at this time to Mary Kay to discuss where we're at. But really, we're going to be covering three things as Mary Kay had let us know previous to this meeting. We're going to be talking about the small business application with Qualtrics. We're going to be talking about the 10-point scoring sheet that was edited from last week's work session. And then we're lastly going to be talking about the municipality breakdown in terms of how much we'll be giving municipalities. But we can also have a little bit of time for any other items that we may want to share. And if need be, we may continue the conversation tomorrow at the Board of Commissioners meeting that's scheduled to begin at 10 a.m. So with that, Mary Kay, we'll turn it over to you to jump right in.
Hey, thank you very much. And good afternoon, Commissioner Higgins. Nice to see you. I didn't say hello to you.
That's okay, Mary Kay. Good to see you too. I've been off the grid for about 2 hours, so I'm catching up on the emails.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to carry on, get as much done as I am very, very excited. I feel like we're on the brink. I feel like we're almost there. And we are almost there because we have an amazing team. And Chad Joyce is really has done a tremendous job, and Margaret has helped me out a great deal. So I'm going to turn it over. The first thing I want us to please take a look at is the application, and why I was so grateful that Chad could meet with us is that he has taken that clumsy old paper application that I feel like I'm dreaming about at night. I've been looking at it so much, and he's put it into Qualtrics. And then last week we discussed a 5-point scoring schedule, and you all suggested you would like a 10-point scoring schedule. So voila, what's going to be awesome is Chad is going to share how that will, it's going to do a lot of the numeric calculations in the back end of things, and then will give us a scoring process. So we're going to go through the application and the score, and it will look at some of the drop downs that are actually part of the scoring sheet, and we will share the scoring sheet after the application. I wanted you to take a look at it and get your opinion about it. And then we will also then take a look at the municipality piece. So if there are no further questions, I would like to dive right in because I'm pretty darn excited. Take it away, Chad.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to share my screen here. That is the wrong one. So I can't see what you guys can see. Do you see the start of a Qualtrics application?
Yes.
It's the Center County logo on top?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yep. Excellent. So this is the application, how it will be seen by our citizens who are going to fill it out, at least in the current form. So the top, section paragraph provides an overview of the CARES Act and a bit of instructions on, what the applicants must be, and they need to fill out the, form completely. There's about 30. What's that?
Can you just stop right there, Chad? I just, if you don't mind, I just wanted to make mention what was brought up last week to really emphasize 100 employees were given priority, but also it's noted with 100 or more for tourism that was suggested. So thank you, Chad.
You bet. So I'll go through and I'll just kind of fill out a mock application just so we can see the questions, how it flows. And then at the end, I'll do a quick export. So we'll see how, this will be how the users see the application, and then we'll be able to see how we'll be able to read the application. So, name of business. I'm just going to do some short answers here. this is one of the drop-down ones that did factor into the scoring matrix. So each of these is worth a different numerical value, which we'll go in later, based on how heavily we want, how heavily they're rated.
That's great, Chad, because in that way they don't have to go to a website and look it up. It's pretty much just right there.
Correct. Yeah. So the link is there if they want to, but it has every main category as well. So if they want to look in further, they can, but they don't have to. They can just click on that drop down and select what they are.
And for our purposes, with the exception of maybe like a farm to table restaurant or bar, pretty much everything else we need is just in that drop down for industry.
Yes. Yes. And then, so I went in and made all these questions required, so they can't skip one. And then some, like this one, are in certain formats, so the information comes through how we want it to come through as well.
Chad, is it? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Would you prefer feedback as we go along, or save it to the end?
We could go along. Like if you see a specific question, if you want it reworded or a different style, that I'm okay with that.
Why don't you actually, now that I think about it, the question might be answered as you go through. So why don't you go through it, and we can loop back with feedback.
Okay.
Yeah.
A number of years in business, this was one of the other ones that was on the scoring matrix. This is another field that if they don't enter an email address incorrectly, then it won't let them proceed as well, so we can get good contact information from them. And this one right here, it lists specific type of corporations. If they click any other one but other, it goes on to the next question. If you click other, then there's a question. That didn't display right. Then it'll ask to expand on other. So how many employees? This is another one that is assigned a point value.
Oh, so on the number of employees, I know it's easy to take 100 and divide it into 10 slots by 10s, but businesses aren't going to line up that way. We're going to have very, very few businesses that have 91 to 100 employees. And we're going to have tons and tons of businesses that are between 1 and 10. So I think if you could, we might want to break that like 1 to 5, 6 to 10, and then at the upper level, it might be, 71 to 100.
Sure, yeah, we can. So it doesn't have to be 1 to 10. When we go over the scoring matrix later, it can really be, there doesn't have to be 10 options. We can make up what makes the most sense.
Oh,
so, you could do 1 to 5.
I think 10 options is perfectly fine.
Okay.
I just think that when we're capturing the data, we have to capture the micro businesses, say at 1 to 4, 1 to 5 people. And then once you get to the higher end, the difference to us between a company with 72 employees and 95 employees isn't much. They're both fairly big, small businesses.
Sure. And these ones, I had a character limit. 1,000 characters is roughly half a page to a page, so it'll still be a decent amount, but we don't want to get 12-page responses. I don't think, unless if you want me to up the character limit on these, I certainly can.
I'm going to jump in on this. These questions, we had talked last Thursday about having kind of that tiebreaker kinds of questions. And when I met with Elizabeth last Friday, we were talking, I was asking her what kinds of things would she want to know about from the SBDC that would make a difference. So Michael, we took out the, how did your business get impacted by COVID? Because you were right, it was going to be the same things. We clean more, we have PPE. So these might help us get more of that art along with the science of the application. And we certainly can change these questions, but that's where they came from and the reason for them.
Yep. And then this one, describe how your business. So if you select any of these responses, it'll move on. If you select other, it will ask you to expand on your other selection, just to provide a little bit more detail. Here's where we're asking if a business has received a grant or a loan to enter the amount. So it automatically calculates it at the bottom as well as they go. So if a business receives whatever amount, it'll add up the total for them, and the total will be reflected on our data analysis as well. Same with monthly gross income. It tallies both of them, which will then also potentially help with this next question, which is one of the weighted questions for the scoring matrix on the revenue decline, that they can select an option. This one here is eligible expenditures. So
Chad,
yeah.
Sorry, just before we forget, in terms of the dates up top, or not up top, but year over year, would that be 19 to 20?
Are we talking about the gross monthly income question?
No, year over year.
Right, that's a typo that didn't get corrected from our prior conversations.
Okay, I just copied and pasted that. So yep, let me update. That'll be updated 19 to 20.
I'll take a note on that. I just wanted to mention why I kept the 18 in there. I didn't know if we had to determine if somebody did not complete their taxes, could they use their 2018 data? That's what I don't know. So,
well, I think it's more that if you haven't completed your 2019 taxes, we're happy to get a copy of your 2018 taxes. But here we're just asking them for a 4-month revenue period pulled as almost really at random. They haven't done their 2020 taxes yet.
Okay, thank you.
We're kind of taking the word for this whole section here.
Yeah,
right.
Thanks. I made a note. Chad, I'm making notes for things, so don't worry from your end, okay?
Okay.
And I actually have another minor note in that section.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm loving the forms. It's looking super professional, and it's going to be a lot easier to fill out. But for gross monthly income, I think we need to specify very directly if we want them to type in the whole thing or if we want the gross monthly income in thousands.
Okay.
Because it's commonly expressed both ways. And I'd hate to have some relatively large business say, my monthly income in March was 500, and we think it's $500, and it's really $500,000.
Yep, that's good clarification.
We'll just need to be very clear on specifying that. And I'm sure the SBDC is going to have to go back through and clean it up a little bit.
Yep. Excellent. This next one is the eligible expenditures. So it works the same way. It is a running total at the bottom. And then what I've been working on this afternoon, which hasn't, I haven't entered the data formulas yet, but the loan amount from here, we're trying to get it to subtract from here so we can see the difference on expenditures and a loan amount. So that'll be in there probably later this afternoon or tomorrow.
Can I just mention something? This whole piece right here, the eligible expenditures, this came from ZA last Friday. that they updated their applications. So I put that into ours. So that if that's new to you, it just came through based on a webinar that they were through with DCED.
And just real quick, it should be personal protective equipment there
Ah,
for that. And just to be clear, if an organization, we are asking them to project out what their costs are going to be for September, October, November, December.
so we should note that is what you're suggesting.
Well, I'm just asking it to Mark. I guess it would be.
No, I think a tiny bit of extra explanation there would not hurt. I agree, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I just don't know if that'll cause any confusion because they could say, again, the key thing is, my understanding is the one thing that ZA has opened our eyes to is that if they've received, if they've basically been made whole by PPE or PPP, they
And
can't
idle.
get any. Yeah, they can't get any money through this. So what that would then mean is that if they have expenditures, so I didn't know if, but the PPE was only for, it expired, correct?
What do you mean expired?
Didn't PPE expire? The program expired?
No, it's PPP, Mike. It actually,
Yeah.
it's okay. It actually did not expire. Enough businesses turned back money on the first round that they've opened up another round. I don't know if it's active yet. Do you know, Mary Kay, if it's active now or if it turns on in a couple of weeks?
I don't know if it's active. It seemed like it still was. I thought last Friday it shut off, but it might be turning back on.
And I guess just to say it this way is, if a business lost $100,000 in March, April, May, and June, you've got 4 months there. So let's say they were projected to make $400,000, but they lost $100,000 each month. They can replace that $100,000 with the PPP. But then they could be projecting forward and saying, well, we're going to lose more money in September, October, November, December. Well, every business is most likely going to lose money over year revenues. So I don't know if we just want to ask this question for the date we put the application out, basically saying the expenditures that you've had for March 1st from middle of August back, we want to make them whole for that period, not going forward. Is that right?
So let me back up a tiny bit, Mike, because this is going to be a little complicated. This is a headline from the Los Angeles Times from 7 hours ago. While more small business loans were processed in the second round of PPP than in the first round, more than $126 billion was still left on the table when the program ended. And it says a new improved coronavirus PPP loan program is in the works. So it looks like there's going to be a third round.
But is that for businesses that did not receive the first and second round?
I'll have to read the article on that. Give me a minute.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in. I'll just say this, and I don't want to get too in the weeds, but I had a conversation with somebody from DCED, and basically they're going to be putting out a bunch of, they got over 200 questions for clarification, and they're going to be putting that on their website hopefully Friday. But one of the questions is if I got PPP and I spent it in April and May, can I claim for payroll for June and July because I already spent my PPP money? And the answer so far is yes, you can. So I don't know how this is all going to come into the mix. And when those questions finally go up on DCED's website, it surely will be enlightening as to, because I do think some of this is somewhat of a moving target.
Yeah, I had to go to another article, but it basically says that, yes, due to this being an ongoing pandemic and people having additional expenses, that if a business received a PPP grant/loan earlier in the year, but they have provable additional distress, that depending on what comes out of Congress, they probably could apply again.
And I guess the distinction is where, if you scroll up, Chad, please, where we're asking them for the gross monthly income. I'm sorry, for that gross monthly income portion, where we're asking them for March, April, May, and June. That's going to have a 4-month breakout. So wouldn't we want to ask the same thing for eligible expenses for those months to compare them? Because isn't it going to be apples and oranges if we're asking for these 10 months?
I think that's a good point. This is how ZA had theirs from March. They had April through June. So I made it March through June. But that is a good point. We're not comparing apples to apples then.
Right, but these are somewhat two separate buckets. Even at this point, a lot of people don't have their July numbers available. So the only way we can get an actual revenue decline is to ask for what the revenues were through June. But your eligible expenses, you can somewhat project those into the future, and we are allowed to fund those through the end of December. So it's two somewhat different concepts. Also, depending on funding, et cetera, there are probably a few businesses in Center County that did receive between PPP and EIDL, who knows, 75% their expenses for this period. But the problem is they still have revenue declines for July, August through December, and they still have expenses during that period too.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm just thinking it's more of a snapshot where if we say, please just give us what your expenditures you're forecasting through July or June, because then we can look at that window to fund these businesses. Because again, this the focus of this pot of money would be for the businesses that that first didn't get the PPP or EIDL, and then the next ones would be, I would assume, would be businesses that did but still didn't have they still have a significant deficit. Where a business at this point could just say, oh yeah, I'm going to spend a lot more money in December, and then when we look at it on paper or when it's scored, so maybe, I don't know if our question would be answered in the back end, Chad, because maybe we keep going and we could put a pin on this, just because once you submit this, maybe it'll show up differently at the back end.
Yeah, I was going to do the export, what that looks like, so you can see what we'll be looking at once someone fills out the survey as well.
So what's your, just out of curiosity, what is your eligible expenses? What's the total on that?
On this one,
it's just 19. Eligible expenditures.
That's what I mean. So you're at 2,000, and yes. That for 10 months, and then can you scroll up again? Okay, 480 over 4 months. So would you, because it looks like from this that you would be above, that your income is going to be more than the expenditures. Do we want to model that in this test scenario? I mean, we can always run it. We can always run it again. This is going to spit out a application that's going to be.
Yeah. So So we want the gross income to be more than the expenditures, correct?
Yeah, but
No, if you could jack up like the rent, if you could have the rent like 5,000, that'll show that expenses have outpaced revenue. Yeah, that'll show a much greater disparity there. Okay.
Sure.
But once we see it scored, I think I'll have my questions answered.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Mark.
Again, we're really going to have to stress that the businesses have to be reporting apples to apples. because, again, for shortcuts and whatnot, it's not uncommon for your accountant to give you, if you're a big or small business, for your accountant to give you your monthly numbers in thousands, but most people think about their expenditures in actual dollars. I also think it's going to be a kind of a fine point of discussion to say, based on the way this business reported their numbers, it appears they might be profitable, so we're not going to give them any money. Was that what you were saying, Mike?
Well, not that we're not going to give them any money, but they're going to score differently on the application. My thing is that if my understanding about how the grant was going to be given out and had been given out in the federal government as well, and I believe this is how the PA what's it called out in Westmoreland County, who's doing the
progress grant.
Yes, the Progress Fund is. They're not asking for expenditures through the whole year. They're just asking expenditures up until a certain point, just because. Yeah,
right. But again, to use the manufacturing firm as an example, with a manufacturing firm, if you're running it right, things like rent, utility bills, internet, phone, PPE, and cleaning supplies, and even unemployment compensation costs, if that starts to be a significant fraction of your revenue, you're never going to make it in even a good time, because most of your expenditures are for raw materials, and raw materials aren't an eligible expense.
right, right. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question here under eligible expenditures. Is there any reason, or would it help, and maybe as we go through this application we'll figure this out, but do 2 columns here, like March through June and then July through December, or something, that maybe that's 2 ways of looking at it?
I thought I saw that on another application.
That might be exactly what I would suggest to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw that on another county's application, but I can't for the life of me remember which one now.
Yeah, Mary Kay, that if we could do that, I think that'd be great.
Chad, is that possible to do? I mean, not now as we're going through this, but is that possible to do that, you think? Do 2 columns? For the eligible expenditures, you know how we're just having one March through December? What if we had 2 columns here, March through June, and then 2020, and then July, projected July through December of 2020. They would know possibly their July, but at least it would be two numeric values then that would come together.
Yeah, that's very easy to set up. It'll look just like the gross monthly income. Instead of 2019, it'll say March through June, and then there'll be a column July through December.
Mark, what do you think about that solution?
I can see some reasoning for it. It's a tiny bit of extra work for the business, but we're basically saying on your expenditure side, give us hard numbers in this column, and then give us what's mostly guesswork in this next column.
Yes.
And then, Chad, it's not that hard for you to just add them back together again?
No, that'll be pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did we lose Commissioner Pipe, or did we just lose his video?
I don't know.
No, Commissioner Pipe is having some pizza.
Oh, very smart.
I was going to save you all the visual of me eating the pizza. So no,
That's fine. That's fine. It's just suddenly your video disappeared, and I was hoping we hadn't lost you.
Nope, I'm here. Thank you.
All right.
He just doesn't want to make us hungry.
Right. Would you like me to continue on to the next couple of questions?
Yes.
Sure.
I believe.
Okay, so this one is if there is any expenditures that weren't captured above, but they feel, that it should be, they can enter amount and why it was captured.
The best example would be outdoor furniture for a restaurant or bar.
Yep, exactly.
Do they have to, in that category, Chad, do they explain what it was for, or do we just say it was $780?
I can do two lines. I can do a line that says amount, and I could do another line with the explanation. We think that's the best way to do it.
To me, it might be helpful to see the dollar amount and why. But I don't know what you all think.
I don't know. A short explanation wouldn't hurt, especially if it ends up being a significant amount of money.
Yeah.
Right.
So I could break that down and do two lines. Pretty easy to do. I think this is the last question. It is the W-9 form. And that they're able to insert and download their W-9 and then sign it. And I'm putting.
Can you stop right here? Hang on for one. Oh, okay. I was just going to suggest if you just go back up for a real quick second. So when they're this upload place where they're uploading their documents, we should probably give them instructions on what to upload, what we want them to upload.
Yeah, we can provide additional instructions. There's a
Thank
link
you.
to the W-9. I think Jason Moser provided this to me, but certainly if we want to provide more instructions, once I have them, that's real simple to insert.
Thank you.
And
Well,
then
we kind of
sign.
start it there and we say that, yeah, then there's your John Hancock.
Yep, and then I added this. What this will do is this will lower or prevent the bots from filling out the survey. And then once it is completed, this is what the applicant will see. It is a complete form with how they filled it out. In addition, they will be able to download a PDF copy, which they'll be able to save.
And what I was, Chad, we can talk about this later, but I think we could make that, we thank you for taking the time. Like, I didn't know if we could give them like a record number. I know some of the ones I've applied for, they've had like, use this. It's like when you pay your credit card, this is a verification.
Yeah,
I have no idea if they
number.
can do that.
So that is
Yes.
customizable, and I'll show the data result export here in a second. There is a sort of transaction number for each one. So I'll see if I can, potentially code that to where the transaction number populates, if that's possible.
And that we thank you for your time. I mean, these are just small little things. We can work offline. I'd like that kind of bigger for people.
Yeah. Would you like me to show the scoring matrix next?
Probably the data. Can you show the download of what the person will get? Just
Yes,
briefly.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have mine up too, if that would help, because I did my cosmetics company.
I have it right here, so it'll include that, and it will include the survey we just filled out. So let me open it up here, and then I'll share my screen. Okay, is that Excel? Do you guys see an Excel document with the
Yes.
the results? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so this response ID, I think that's what you're talking about. Each one has a unique one, so I'll see if we can customize the message and potentially insert that in there, see if that's feasible. And so this is pretty straightforward. Obviously, each question corresponds with the results. Doing Excel will make it easy to sort. And then I'm gonna
So
scroll.
this is what I'm just sorry, this is what then we will export over to SBDC
Yes,
to
so
give them
we
the
can,
data.
correct. And I'm going to go to the last column has the score. So that produces a score based on the 4 questions that are currently in the scoring matrix and their response. So I made the matrix, I took the percentages, and instead of doing a 1 to 10 scale, I sort of made it out of 100, which I can display. Let me share the matrix real quick.
So this is the matrix. Again, last week we had 5 points in the percentages, and you wanted me to clean it up. And Mark suggested to put in the NASIX codes. And so this is what you have not seen yet, but this is then all integrated into the application. So we are all ears.
Yeah, so it was a 1 to 10 scale with a percentage weight. So for easy calculation within Qualtrics, I made each question, instead of 1 to 10, its point value is based on the weight for that question. So the year-over-year revenue, we decided, and the total theoretical maximum is 100 points. So we wanted a 40% weight on year-over-year revenue. So instead of this, 90 to 100% decline being worth 10 points, I made it 40 points, and you could just see it goes down essentially 10 points or 10% of the total value for that question as, based on the answer. The next one for number of employees, I know we want to tweak this scale, but the way we have it now, it's 15%. So the highest maximum point is 15 points, and then it goes down by 1.5 points across the board.
I'm kind of undercutting myself here, but I remember that Commissioner Pipe loved the scale. He was fine with the 15 points. He's fine with the 10 different groupings. We need to change the numbers a little bit, but I think Commissioner Pipe wanted that particular one flipped. And the smaller
I wasn't sure what to do with that.
The more points you got.
Sure. This is easily changed for the ranking scale. So this was, what we have in place, but we can alter either the weighted percentage or, which one we want to give 15 points, which one we want to give 7 points to, et cetera.
So let me ask that. We had this discussion last week, and I wasn't clear on which way we go. Are we rewarding larger firms, or are we rewarding smaller firms? That's what I didn't know.
Right. I think we have a difference of opinion on that one.
Yeah, I was still thinking that we would weight that one higher for small business. A smaller business would get be more likely they would get higher points. That was where I was at on that one.
Sure, and just for the draft, that I just set up this way, right, just for the draft of it. But like I said, it's really easily changed once the board comes to a conclusion on what employee range wants to go in what category. That's easily adjusted in Qualtrics.
Yeah, if you'd prefer to see it the other way, or how it's currently listed, Mark, we can always put a pin in that until tomorrow when Steve is on the call with us, and we can get his 2 cents on that.
Well, I think everyone's going to be in favor that the worse your revenue decline, the more points you get, because you've really been affected.
Sure.
And I think we have some agreement that we're going to give more points to businesses that have either been severely affected by the pandemic or that are generally job creators, value-added type companies. And then I think we're all in fairly broad agreement that the longer the business has been around, we're kind of wanting to give them a little bit of a bonus for that too, although it's relatively small.
Well, yeah, Yeah, on that one, I was in favor of flipping that one as well, where we were giving more points to businesses that had not been around for as longer as others.
Hmm.
I know the one discussion we had was, and I'm not the deciding factor on this, but it's trying to think about, I mean, I'm going to go to a place like the Tavern. Like if they went away, is that going to be as impactful or less impactful is if a brand new hair salon or a brand new restaurant, went out of business? And that decision isn't for me to make, but that's the discussion.
Right, exactly. And so if we have a difference of opinion, I think we would have to table it until tomorrow, that specific one as well, for Steve to weigh in on that one. But I was curious about the economic impact on Center County broken out. How were those decided?
We had the original sheet that I had, and I was told to, like you were suggesting, that I clean it up, which I agreed with. And by putting in the NASIX codes, they can certainly be switched around, but this is something that I worked with Elizabeth from SBDC on. But if we feel that, arts and entertainment, recreation should be at a higher percentage, not at the G scale, then we can certainly move those around. But we thought if the NASIX code was the most fair way of going about it.
I just didn't know if it was where, there's something that's there's been something, for example, published by the federal government saying during a pandemic, these are the businesses. Okay.
No, not at all. This is the deciding point for you. I just want to throw in one thing here under column D, where we talk about accommodation and food service. Last week we were trying to get a definition of what tourism is. I have not been able to get a definition of tourism. The one that I got was, it brings people in from the outside. And I thought, holy cow, that's a really broad category. So these can be switched around in any way in which you please.
Well, one I can see right now, it's in column F, utilities. I don't think utilities should be that high. I mean, they're going to be affected, but they're going to survive almost regardless of what we do as a utility.
So move that maybe to column L.
Yeah, K or L, either one.
Okay.
All right, so you do bring up the good point, Mary Kay, that we're still awaiting a definition of tourism.
Can I tell you, Commissioner Kiggins, I don't think we're going to get one. I really don't, because I asked ZA, and then I just now maybe when these questions come back from the FAQs from DCED, maybe we'll get it, but it's something else.
So we pretty much just have to say if anybody's in the code starting with 72, which is accommodation and food service, they're pretty much tourism.
It's funny because I'll just say what ZA weighed in on. It said some restaurants and bars are going to be tourism related and some aren't. I have no idea how to quantify that. I have no idea how to tell a bar or restaurant in Snowshoe they aren't tourism when they have their rattlesnake hunt. I mean, I'm just bringing up, something versus somebody here for Penn State football.
I think while we could make a determination that someone is actually at least a partial farm to table operation, to say that this restaurant or bar is involved with tourism and this restaurant or bar is not involved in tourism, that's going to be really contentious. I just think we have to, for whatever restaurants and bars we have with more than 100 employees, we have to allow them to turn their application in and have it be considered.
So
what's your view, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking online to see if there's any type of economic studies that relate back to what industries will be hit the most. So again, are we thinking about this from an importance of the community, or are we thinking about it as what businesses have been affected most by the pandemic?
I
So
think right now it's a little bit of both, because if we were just doing it straight on job creation and sort of export orientation, I don't think accommodation and food service would rank quite as high.
right.
But yeah, they've been hit really bad. And, talking about places like the Tavern Restaurant or Elk Creek Cafe or even something like Gigi's. If there's some way we can keep restaurants of that type open, I think it benefits the community. If this money is going to the local Burger King franchise, I don't think it benefits the community. Apologies for Burger King lovers.
Yeah, right. No, that's fun. The one thing I just want to mention is, I mean, I really appreciate the discussion, and this is something that I'm not sure how to move forward on, because if we show this is the one proprietary matrix that we don't really want to show. This is something that we want to use as our personal scoring. And so I'm curious how we do that. It's not that I don't want to be transparent, but I don't want people to, again, kind of see the answers to the test score.
Well, I think one way to do that is to not really freeze this in stone yet. I think the most important thing for the scoring matrix at this time is to make sure that whatever data we need for the matrix is being gathered in the application. Whether the number of employees for the first column breaks at 4 or 5 or 6, we have a couple of weeks to do that. But if number of employees as of March 1st, 2020 is something we need, then we've got to ask it.
So for the Qualtrics piece, if we want the export data analysis to produce the score, we will need to know that, we'll need to have this matrix settled before we publish the survey.
Oh, okay.
So otherwise it won't calculate right.
And otherwise we'll have to.
Yeah. If it's published before the survey, then everyone's
spreadsheet.
Yeah, then everyone's operating off the same scale if it's published.
All right.
Integrated before the link is published in the application.
So we've got about a week to nail this down then.
Yeah.
All right.
It looks like Michael left the call. Do we want to continue on and do we want to continue on with this? Or I guess I will need your guidance on this, because Chad is 100% right. We really can't release this application until we have this settled. And the other, again, so we have to, yeah, it's okay. We just have to have this, and we just have to have this piece settled before the application goes live. And I also don't know how to get this settled. Again, I am sensitive to sharing this because again, this is everything as far as what our metrics are. So I'll be quiet and listen.
I'm sorry I got cut. My computer froze, whatnot. But in terms of the year-over-year revenue, the employees, and the length of time in business, those are pretty, we can set those, and there's justification behind each of those in terms of I think like Mark said, everybody agrees on the year-over-year. we need Steve to weigh in on the employee side and the length of time in business. The really one that seems to be the most subjective is the economic impact. But I would think that we could either pull, it depends on how we want to do it. If we want to pull from the Department of Labor each of the sectors that have seen, and we could do how each of those sectors have either seen a drop in unemployment or an increase in unemployment. I'm sorry, that's the same thing. But if so, for example, I think public administration was very low on that. That hasn't seen as much of a drop, or there was some sort of administration on that sheet. But again, the hospitality, restaurants, those have seen a drop as well. So, but then there are also subsegments, which is transportation, for example. We know Fullington has been hit. Other transportation services have been hit. So we may want to move that one up, but it's coupled with warehousing, transportation and warehousing, which we may want to split those out. Warehousing would be its own, transportation would be its own. But if we could find some sort of objective research for Center County and I don't know if Elizabeth from SBDC did that or if that was more just her gut feeling on that, but if we could get something objective, I think that'd be helpful.
Mary Kay, I think you're on mute.
Thank you. I said I can certainly, if they were Elizabeth's numbers, that's where the grid came up with. So I can certainly ask her why she came up with that basis. As far as, I don't really know the NAICS codes all that well, but like transportation and warehousing, I think the numbers are what the numbers are. I don't think that, when they're grouped that way, they're grouped that way.
Right.
Well, and something that we could have the SBDC help us on is once they have the scores, couldn't they say, there's a lot of warehousing companies in here. In our view, nice to have them, but they're not that affected by the pandemic. And in Center County, they don't actually have potential to create a lot of jobs. But here's Fullington and one or two other transportation companies that have been seriously affected. We're going to give them a few bonus points or something.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think that, again, I go back to what somebody said last week. There's the art and the science.
Right.
So that's the part of the art. And that's why we're working with them, because they know that and we don't. So maybe that's how to kind of settle that.
I think maybe now we found ourselves the second NAICS category where we have two drastically different types of businesses in the same code. We want to help Fullington and a few other companies like that because they've been very badly affected. And if we lose them, then it's going to hurt Center County, because even though those jobs don't pay well, somebody else will take those jobs later. We don't have a bus company. And then we have the difference between a Burger King and a farm-to-table restaurant, where we want to keep a farm-to-table restaurant. We want to, if we can, try to keep somebody like the Tavern, which, well, they might not necessarily be farm-to-table. They're very integral into the community and do wonderful work with, heck, even the county at the Tavern. So maybe we rely a little bit on the SBDC to help us with that.
Yeah, and just keep in mind, as Chad was giving that spreadsheet, as he was sharing that whole piece, like the SBDC will do some magic to it as far as they will help us, maybe there's somebody that's in there twice, or maybe there's somebody that's, oh gosh, they really aren't that business. They can eliminate some of that, but at the end of the day, it's going to be the three of you making decisions. Doesn't really matter if one person gets 65 points and one gets 63. You're going to say, I think we're just doing this to give some basis, give some numeric value. That's the science part. the art comes into what you all know and what you all want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. We just the big thing is, when we release this, there might be questions about, well, how is this going to be ranked? And we can easily answer 3 of those categories, but we just would need to have some sort of clarity on the, give an explanation about here's how we developed them or here's how we came out, because every industry is going to find theirs and going to say, and this is going to be right to node, Mary Kay, most likely. I mean, we're showing it on the screen now, so it's already been publicized to a certain extent, but it would be available for a right to know, request. So
Yeah, and I'm totally okay with people seeing it. It's just I don't know that we want to publish it real broadly. That's all I'm suggesting.
Yeah. Well, if it's a 2-week window for the applications, if somebody requests it the first day, it's going to be out there by Friday. So it is what it is. So anyway,
Exactly.
yeah. Yep.
Well, and we maybe it's still a little early, but we also need to figure out how do we use the points. Do we say this range of points you get $3,000, this range of points you get $6,000, this range of points you get $9,000, or do we say, everybody gets a minimum of $3,000, but then we'll have an adder that if you're in this range of points, we'll add this much money, or we'll reimburse this percentage of your lost revenue. We're still not quite done.
Yeah, agreed. Yep.
And I've been staying away from. I've been trying to stay away from giving, making quote like a mandated suggestion, because I continue to hear like, gosh, let's see how many businesses apply. So if we have 100 businesses apply, it might be a different pot of money than if we have 1,000. So, but I do think the points could go with some sort of numeric piece for how much is given out.
Right, and especially at the upper end, the higher reward number will probably vary quite a bit depending on the number of applications we receive. If we figure we want to give a minimum of $2,000 or $3,000 to everybody, and we get 400 applications, that leaves quite a bit left over for extra bonus dollars. If we have 1,000 or more, like even say 2,000 companies apply, I mean, heck, at 2,000 companies applying, each one of them getting $3,000, we're done.
Do we want to come back to that? Anything else that I'm sensitive to the time. It's 3:02, and I know some of you have hard stops. So I just wanted to know where we want to go from here as far as tomorrow's meeting. I didn't know Steve wasn't going to be here today, so please give me some marching orders.
So one thing I'll suggest as we wrap up that short portion of the conversation is a possible metric could be, or ranking system could be, the Pennsylvania Department of Labor puts out economic sectors and the change in unemployment in each of those sectors, where we may want to use that as a guide to crafting that scoring. So they will release it based upon sectors. I don't know if they match up. I don't think they match up exactly with the NAICS codes, but they are similar-ish. And so we could. But I would think then the industries that have been hit the hardest would be favored more towards getting higher points. That'd be my thinking.
Okay, I can certainly look at that data.
Unfortunately, I'd be looking at somewhat more of a double favoring. Certainly industries that have been hit hard to get extra points, but I also think there are industries like manufacturing and high tech that may have been hit only moderately, but we really, really, really need to encourage those type of companies here in Center County. because we have got to diversify away from the university. I mean, we were looking at the three-legged stool being the university, tourism, and startups. And at this point, two of our legs are pretty much shot to hell for the next 6 months. And our third leg of startups is still not very big.
I totally agree with you on that, Mark. But however, businesses that have not been affected, I appreciate we do want to move away, or we want to diversify away from.
No, I said moderately affected. If you have a manufacturing firm that has revenue gains year over year, you get nothing.
Right. But for the industries that have not been affected, so their revenues have not decreased, and
manufacturing is a very broad waterfront, Mike. There are manufacturing industries, say you manufacture food service equipment. You're probably at 100% revenue loss right now.
Right.
You're in manufacturing, but nobody's buying what you're making, period. And then there are other manufacturing firms where you might have some exposure to the hospitality industry. Maybe you make beds, or mattresses. So your revenue's down 30 or 40%. So you're kind of in line to get something. But I should think that if we have a manufacturing firm with a 30% revenue decline and a Burger King with a 30% revenue decline, I want the manufacturing firm to get something significant enough to help them through and maybe allow them to possibly rehire a couple of people as soon as stuff looks favorable whatsoever. Whereas I am totally fine giving the Burger King $3,000 and being done.
And again, you're going to be able to have that decision making. I mean, I do think we can give some parameters once the numeric values come back. We can give some parameters to SBDC to kind of cut the data in a certain way. And at the end of the day, you're going to be getting that data sheet. And you're going to be able to see, well, I don't want to give any more to Burger King. I mean, even if it's scored high, at least the scoring will give you some basis, but then it's your decision. I don't think we're going to be able to figure this out 1,000%, by the sheet.
No, I agreed, Mary Kay. I probably didn't do this right. Let me.
Oh, you did it perfect. Yeah, you were sharing it.
Yeah, let me see if I can get back here. Blue jeans, let's see, share. So this is, luckily enough, this is from the Department of Labor and Industry from Pennsylvania, but you can actually, let me zoom in here. So
they do use the NICSs.
Yeah, so that's very helpful. So they talk about, so I'm just going to stop here and say, I think we should use this probably as a metric, but the way that they're doing, I'm just looking for the change year over year. There has to be a change year over year somewhere on here. They've got up here somewhere on that site. There's going to be some sort of change of year over year. There has to be.
All right, but Mike, I will bring your attention to the wages shown.
Right.
And I think it was showing accommodation and food services $17,000. I mean, right. We want to help that group because they're being kind of decimated right now. But how many jobs do we want that pay $17,000 a year?
Right.
Can't live on that.
Right. Yeah, you know what? I think they're going to break this down. Yeah, they're going to do that. The way they're going to break this down. Can you all still see this?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. So it looks like this is here it is right here. But this is for our whole region, our workforce. workforce development area. So I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing because we do hire from a regional basis, but that would be,
Yes.
this is probably the closest we can come up with. I can always, Mary Kay, I can always give you Erica Mulberger. She is the director of this workforce development area, the central workforce development area, her email, and maybe you could get some information from her regarding
Sure.
so
Well, yeah, maybe I can get her on a call, with SPDC, and then we can kind of. So I'm trying to. I'll figure out how to read this because I'm not sure. I guess the NICS is just down the left.
yeah,
So
right
I'm
here.
trying to figure out the difference. Like the difference from year to year. That other one that you had.
Yeah, so this one's going to have it. This one has it right here, and again, it's again, it looks like they have the data, but you'd have to probably work with her a little bit to get it into how we need it. But
Am I hearing? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. Yeah.
Am I hearing that you want the people that are hit the worst by unemployment to get the most amount of points? But then I was hearing that Commissioner Higgins is saying, well, gosh, maybe not so much because they aren't the high level jobs that we might be looking for. So I think that's a decision between the commissioners of what we want, again, quote, reward.
Right. No, I mean, my thing is finding something that's objective, and we could say, giving out, because if we're using the NAICS data, that's good because that structures it. So that's what we're asking them, and then awarding it based upon X. So it's either going to be unemployment or it's going to be, what we think the value to the community is, or it's going to be what the average salary is. Those are all, those are up for debate. But it sounds like I'm more on the side of just use the unemployment numbers for the sectors that are hit hardest. Commissioner Higgins might be saying, let's do a little bit more of, the salaries and importance to the community. And so we may need to carry this one over as well to tomorrow to discuss that.
So tomorrow at the meeting, what would you, I'll just get from you, what would you like me to bring forward, if at all, for tomorrow's meeting? Because I don't want to put something out that,
Yeah, it would be helpful to have the data from, the workforce development area, or for Center County, seeing a change of unemployment from, last year to this year, June of 2019, June of 2020, and compare those two. I do know that exists somewhere. I just can't seem to locate it.
Okay. Well, I will do my best to get that. So I'll do my best to find that.
Okay.
And the other part to run by Steve is, are we giving a small to medium sized bonus to the smallest businesses by employment and somewhat penalizing the larger of the small businesses, or are we flipping it and we're giving a bit of a bonus point to our larger small businesses?
So I guess all I'm asking for you, like for guidance for tomorrow's meeting at, the Board of Commissioners meeting, what you want me to bring up, or, I just need some help figuring out what you want me to bring up, or what you all want to bring up, and then I can lead a discussion about. Michael.
Yeah, so I think so it seems like the large small businesses, that Steve would just have to weigh in on that. You've brought enough information on that one. From the businesses that have been here longer or recent, that's all you all see. That again, that data is already there, so Steve would just have to weigh in on that. And then, but the last one would really be to bring in some more data that's available from the 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 Department of Labor or some other data center based upon the different sectors. That might be helpful to look at, because then we could maybe base it off of that and maybe make some tweaks depending on salaries or importance to the community, things like that.
Well, maybe you could send, I don't know Erica, so maybe you could send me
Yeah.
her information, and I'll contact Elizabeth Hay to see if she can, that isn't in my knowledge base, so I'll need some resource guides there.
Sounds good. Can do.
Thank you. And then it is 3:14, and I know we were trying to do a stop. Margaret has to stop at 3:30. So I'm trying to determine if we want to talk about the ratios that we have for municipalities, or do we want to continue on with the business piece?
How much longer on the business piece we would have? What do we still need to hit there, Mary Kay?
I'm not sure if we do, because I think until we make some of these other decisions, I'm not sure we have anything else to hit. But I don't want to cut it off if you all think there's something else we need to hit.
I don't know, Mark. I'm not seeing anything else. We did a review of the application, review of the metrics. Those were the two big things.
Yeah, I think so. The Qualtrics software looks quite professional, and I think Chad and Mary Kay made a lot of progress on coming up with an application that captures the data we need without being too onerous on the small business people. So I'm cool moving to a brief discussion on municipalities.
Okay. Do you want me at tomorrow's meeting? I feel like it would be premature to present the Qualtrics application at the meeting. Am I correct about that?
You don't necessarily have to go into the nitty gritty of the. You know what? Honestly, it's going to come out. I think it's, or we can. It's nothing. It's nothing. Earth shattering at this point. It is what it is. If it's either going to be if you're a longer term, business, or if you have more employees. So that is what it is. I don't think there's any issue with that. Unless, Mark, you think that we should be more generic.
Well, no, I think Steve should definitely see what the Qualtrics application itself looks like, and with the understanding it's still being edited. I think you'd like to see that. I think we might be able to keep the conversations about types of businesses and bonuses for sizes of businesses somewhat generic. I don't know if we necessarily have to be flashing the whole matrix for that. But I certainly would love to see the Qualtrics application. Looks great.
Thank you. So to summarize, Chad, are you able to come into that meeting tomorrow, or will you be there that you could preview that, please?
Yes. Is that the 10 a.m. Board of Commissioners meeting?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Would that be? Yeah. You're going to do a better job than I will as far as that. Would that be all right?
Yeah, I can make some of the edits we talked about today, and they'll be ready for. Do you want me to run through the application like I did today, or just do a high-level overview?
Commissioners, what would you?
Steve would probably prefer more of a high level.
Sure.
Okay. All right. I'm going to want us to head over to the, we have, it's 3:17, and I really want to be sensitive because I know that you have appointments. So going once, going twice, I'm going to turn over to Margaret, if that's okay, to look at the municipality distributions, because that was something important for us to get money out the door. And we have, Margaret has put together 3 options as far as numbers. And would it be okay if we move over to that?
So if I could just give some prefacing remarks to this. I'd offered to help Mary Kay because you can see that working on the small business application has been all-consuming, and so I said that I would take the discussion from last Thursday that I understood that you had on municipalities and just put some numbers around it for you to take a look at. one of the reasons that I'm presenting here 3 different options is because our initial slice of the pie was for $1.7 million. And we just wanted to put some different thoughts out there for you to take a look at before you make a final decision. Mary Kay, I can't see the form. Is it up there? You're muted, Mary Kay. Mary Kay, you're muted.
Maybe Chad could just unmute her. Or Natalie.
They probably don't have the document. I would need to mail it, text it to them. Or Mary Kay, can you send the document to Chad?
She's calling us. Okay.
Mary Kay? Okay, all right. I will, you're not able to send the document to Chad? Or can you? No. Okay, all right. If you can send the Excel spreadsheet to Chad, he can put it up on the screen. Mary Kay's computer is freezing on her, so you may not be able to send. If you just give me 2 minutes, I can send it to Chad. Here, I just have to log back in.
Sounds good.
Okay, this will be, I can do this quickly. Okay, Chad, it's on its way. Chad, it's on its way to you.
Okay, can you guys see the sheet?
Yes.
Recording is on.
And so now I'm totally out. Just give me 1 second.
Hello, all. I'm back. I apologize. I'm so happy you got that. I did. Hello, this is Mary Kay. I'm back. Can you all hear me?
Oh, yes, we can. Yep. Hi, Mary Kay.
Okay. Hi,
Sorry.
I apologize. Good old DSL Verizon.
We were thinking about all of us just freezing like this. And, hey, what's going on? Yeah.
Just to mess with me, right?
What's going on here?
Margaret, is there something I can do?
I cannot get back to Blue Jeans on my computer. I can hear audio, but I'm going to go to my.
But Margaret, just so you know, I can see the Excel sheet. So you have option 1, 2, and 3.
In order for me to explain it, I need to see it. So just give me 1 second, okay?
Okay. I did send it to you and Chad.
Is it up on the screen for everyone?
Yes.
I can see it.
Okay, all right. So I'm just going to walk
It
through this.
It looks like a formula is not working.
I'm
It's
sorry?
looking to me, Margaret, like a formula is not working. because just looking at Bellefonte Borough, when you say it's $10 a person, it's $62,000. And if it's $8 a person,
So could I explain the chart? Let me explain it, okay?
Yeah.
So
All right.
because we were trying to sort of land around 1.7 million, there are three different proposals here. So the first option one is structured differently than option two and option three. So option one is based on a $10 per person allocation. And you'll see that there are 9 municipalities that have some very bolding next to them, and those are the municipalities that are under $10,000. So we've gone in column E and adjusted those to be $10,000 so that no municipality under option one receives less than $10,000. If we just went with a straight $10 per person, no adjustment, we'd be shy of the 1.7 by about 76,000. If we made the adjustment to bring up those 9 municipalities to a $10,000 base, we would come in under 1.7 million by $45,810. Option two is the option that I believe that you ended with thinking about at Thursday's meeting, which is a base of $8,000 for all municipalities. And then attached to that, added to that, is $9 per person. So it's $8,000 plus $9 times the population to get the amounts in column H. And if you decide, I believe that's where you landed last time, where it would be everybody gets $8,000, and then based on population, it's an additional $9 per person. If you were to go with option two, you would go over the 1.741 million by $41,465. And going along with that theme, if you decided to change the base and make the base $7,000, so each and every municipality receives $7,000, and then you would add $9 per person based on column B, you would receive the amounts that the amounts that each municipality would get would be in column K, and that would be the option that would bring us closest to the 1.7 million. We'd be over 1.7 million by about $6,465. I know that there's flexibility in the 1.7. That was a guidepost early on, but these are just three different options to look at ways to allocate the money out to the municipalities. There, you will see, for example, under option one, if you were to go with that option, we'd be with the adjusted base to provide each municipality with $10,000. There'd be about $45,000 remaining under the 1.7. That $45,000 could be distributed in addition to augment some of the allocations for municipalities that have police forces. That was something I know that was a point of interest at Thursday's meeting, and so there are ways to take those amounts and allocate further. But just for point of discussion, three different options to think about, with option two being the one that I believe you were considering on Thursday. So that's how it's structured. I think the formula is correct, Mark, for option two. If you consider 8,000 plus the $9 per person times the population.
Right, I just thought that all of the values were pinned to 1.7 million, but obviously there's some fluctuation.
Yep, that's right. So I think that the calculations are correct. It comes down to what do you feel most comfortable with. I think from an explanation standpoint, taking option one, $10 per person with no municipality to receive less than $10,000 is easy to explain. So are the others. Those numbers are arbitrary. The bases, the difference between 8 and 7 and the amount per person, those are just numbers that we have plugged in to try to get close to the 1.7. So just food for thought, some consideration. And if you think that there are other numbers that you'd like me to run, I can do that. We can change the the dollar amount per person. We could change the base amount. There are lots of different ways to cut this.
My personal feeling is I'm starting to lean toward option 3 because relatively easy. It's toward the top. If you compare Burnside Township to Center Hall Borough, they're both pretty low in population, but Center Hall Borough's population is almost triple that of Burnside. And so with the first option, Center Hall Borough gets $2,300 more than Burnside with triple the population. Whereas if you go all the way out to option 3, Burnside still gets, actually at this point, Burnside appears to almost get more. They get 10 grand, and yet Center Hall Borough gets 18.
Right,
I like the
so
fact there's a bigger spread.
in option 3, you're correct, Burnside would receive more than they would if we went with option 1. Because, yeah.
But for me, it's the more important that Center Hall Borough gets substantially more in option 3 than they got in option 1.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because there's a base amount as opposed to just a, per person. I mean, the other thing to think about is instead of $10 per person is to, raise that amount. So if you raise it to $12 per person, for example, you'd reduce the number, you'd bring up the bottom, but you'd also bring up the top because then it would be strictly driven by population.
Although I am noticing that when you compare option 1 to option 3, a lot of the difference in funding for the smaller municipalities comes out of the high to State College Borough. Is their funding drops by like 35,000 or something.
State College, you're talking about State College Borough?
Yeah.
Yes, so it is on a straight multiplier of a dollar amount times population. The larger municipalities, yes, do better under the option 1 because we're not using the same per person multiplier, right? We're using $9 versus $10 per person, per resident.
Could you do maybe a hybrid where option 3, something like Burnside still caps at 10,000? And maybe reallocate some of that to the more populated areas.
Well, or what if we have a smaller base of 7 grand? Can you utilize roughly the same formula and say every municipality gets a minimum of 7,000? So like Unionville Borough gets a big bump and Burnside Township still gets a big bump, but somebody like Millheim's going to get close to the same amount regardless.
That's right. The having a base amount, option 3 is that base of $7,000. I believe that you came up with that on Thursday as a way to make sure that there was a floor that everybody received at least a certain level of funding, right?
I like Mike's concept on that.
Right, but there are 2 ways to get to it. You can do it this way and give everybody the base, and then do the plus, the add-on of so much per person. Or you can do it like option 1 and say, everybody gets $10 per person. If your calculation based on your population doesn't get you to a certain floor, we're going to make up the differential and bring you up to $10,000. You could pick a different adjusted base.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder what that looks like at 7 grand.
So it's a question of what you want the floor to be for the smaller municipalities. Do you want them get not less than 10, not less than 7, not less than 12? I mean, I can plug in the numbers any way you would like them to see what those scenarios look like. I can run more options for tomorrow if you want to give me different numbers if you like one of the models better than another. But I think I almost think that option one, you're accomplishing the same thing because you're saying everybody gets at least $10,000, right?
Yeah.
But you're not penalizing the larger municipalities. The larger municipalities don't do as well in option three as they do in option one.
Yeah.
I still like option two the most. The option one, the reason I'm not a big fan of it is because if you look at a municipality like Unionville Borough, smallest municipality in the county per population, they go from 3,000 to 10,000 automatically. But to go to Mark's point, if you've got a municipality like Milesburg Borough, they're at 10,760, and they're 700 because they have a few more. They've got 76 more people. They get the same amount of money, but the municipality is almost 3 times as small. So that's why I like option two, is because everybody's guaranteed 10,000, and it's easy to say every municipality is guaranteed 10,000, but then it's also based on population as well. So.
So we're not saying that in option two and option three. We're saying that everybody's guaranteed 8,000 in option two. We're saying that everybody's guaranteed 7,000 in option three.
Right, except for adding in the $9 a person. So in option two, your smallest municipality still gets $10,601.
Sure. And there's only one municipality in option three that doesn't get 10,000, and that's Unionville Borough, and they get $9,601 because they have 289 residents. I think that's the only one that falls below 10. So, we're pretty close across the board in making sure that each of them gets 10 minimum.
I was dumped off again, so I apologize.
That's okay. So, Mark, do you have a preference on any of these?
I would like to see what happens if you take option one and try to put in a $7,000 base. Because I like being able to say that even the smallest municipality gets X, and that X is a decent amount of money. But, to have a situation where you do have some of these municipalities that are just a bit over 1,000 people, so they're 4 times the size of our couple smallest municipalities, but they get only a couple more dollars.
So I think that is option three, everybody getting 7,000, right? And then the $9 per person. So that's option three. The only difference between 2 and 3 is that the base, I was playing with the base a little bit to get us closer to the 1.7, which it does. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't know if that's a significant differential.
Right. It just the difference between our option ones and the options 2 and 3 is under option 1, everybody gets at least 10 grand. The medium-sized municipalities, it doesn't really vary between the different options. But in option 1, State College Borough, Ferguson Township, maybe in Patton Township get a fair amount. They also all have police forces. And in the other options, State College is losing like 35 grand.
Well, the one thing that we can do if you choose an option that has, a reallocated budget that we still have some left over, one of the things, as Margaret had mentioned, you could give the boroughs the municipalities that have police forces, you could give them an additional bump, there being a rationale.
Right. Now, what about municipalities that pay for police protection from other municipalities, like College and Harris.
Yeah, I don't know that they'll be able to deduct that or not. I don't know that. The one thing that I can stay all day, but I know it's 3:38, and I believe that Michael and Margaret had other appointments, so I wanted to be just at least bring that to the table.
Yeah, no, it sounds like, yeah, go ahead, Margaret.
I was just going to say, glad to present this tomorrow, glad to change it, to run some different scenarios if helpful, or if you just want one scenario to be up for a discussion tomorrow, that's okay too. I just thought that we hadn't really laid out the numbers like this, and so I thought it would be helpful to see some different variations of
I think
different
it looks
ideas.
great.
Very, very helpful to see the variations. My concern is if we start presenting in public 4 different options, then the smallest municipalities will want one certain option, and the largest municipalities will want a different option, and the medium-sized municipalities won't care much one way or the other.
Well, on some level, all of this is public, so I don't know how to get it to you without, a kind of a conversation. I mean, we could, for tomorrow's meeting, which is probably, there may be more input tomorrow. We can pair the options out of it.
I think, everybody's desire is to try to get some money out the door. So, this is one, because we're talking about budgeting, for the municipalities going to be doing budgeting. So, we're happy to do whatever we need to do to, help make the decisions.
Yeah, at the just on Thursday, the direction at that point was, we had set these amounts, and we were going to try during this week to at least get to the municipalities a letter that would say, here's what we're going to be giving to you. And so it sounds like we'd be delaying that until next week, which is fine. We're working on that business grant. But if we want to present this again tomorrow, we can get Steve's input, and then we can have one last conversation on it, so we can try to get some of these funds out to the municipalities. I think that's the best way at this point in terms of getting consensus on it again.
So, Mike, the letters could still go out on Friday if you decide tomorrow. I didn't know that it was a final decision on Thursday, so I apologize. I thought there was still just kind of taking another look at these numbers. So,
no, sure. It's I think with Mary Kay, Chad, and everybody working on the grant still, we probably wouldn't have been able to get them out just because of the bandwidth we have. But again, we can have a final conversation about it tomorrow. That works.
Would you like?
Sure.
Would you like me to take the options out of this?
We can present it. You can present it again as it is now. That's fine, to get Steve's take on it.
Yeah, all right, that's fine.
We can do that. So tomorrow,
the other point of consideration is if we do go with the some of the larger numbers, we're going to have to, which we can do absolutely, is adjust some of the other allocations to make up. Because we'd be exceeding 1.7.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
what you're talking about is the pie chart, basically.
Right, so we'd have to pare something else back, but that I don't think, in that regard, we're early on.
Okay.
So, Margaret, are you okay to present that? Or Commissioner Pike, Commissioner Higgins, do you want us to do anything? Do you want Margaret to do anything differently, or?
No, I don't think so. We would then just be basically doing another look at the business grant, and then another conversation about the municipalities.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. All righty. Thank you, Margaret. Really appreciate you doing that.
Okay. All right. And then that would conclude the work session, I believe. Just want to make sure. Do we have anything else we wanted to talk about when it comes to this? Is there anything else?
No, I think we need to get some of these bites of the apple done so we can get that done and then move on to some other. I did, just for the note, I did reach out to Center Foundation yesterday and started the conversation on the nonprofit piece, but I'm in no way to continue on with that conversation right now. But we're moving in that direction, moving along.
Okay, excellent. Okay. All right. And hearing no further discussion, I think we'll look for a motion to adjourn the work session at 3:44.
Motion to adjourn the work session at 3:44.
I will second that. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion is carried.